I have full confidence in the men and women of the Secret Service. They are worthy of our support in executing our protective mission. I will now answer any questions that the committee may have.
Here's are some facts that we know. The Secret Service has an annual budget of $3.1 billion. It employs 8,000 agents. The shooter, as reported by the FBI, used a drone before the shooting to scoop the area. The director had assigned temporary agents on President detail from HSI, DHS, and various different agencies. Timeline of events. July 3rd rally was announced that really will take place in Butler, Pennsylvania. Pre-July 7th, the shooter researched the date and the RNC event. July 7th, the shooter visited the rally site to scout the area. Post-July 7th, the shooter went to a gun range to prepare for the assassination attempt on former and future President Donald Trump. July 13th, the shooter returned to the rally site before the event began. Post-July 13th, the shooter bought ammunition after searching for a gun store online. Day of the rally, July 17th, the shooter brought his father's gun to the venue. 5 p.m. Local law enforcement noted a suspicious person in the crowd. Literally 1 whole hour before Trump took the stage that evening. Look line for enforcement made of that there is a suspicious person in the crowd. 5:20 p.m. Law enforcement flagged the shooter carrying a rangefinder. Which is very concerning what a 20 years old is doing with a rangefinder at a rally. 5:40 p.m. They shared video and photos of the individual. 5:51 p.m. State police did notify the Secret Service. All that is happening before Trump even took the stage. In my opinion, it should have been avoided. I do believe high-rank officers and officials are definitely involved in this. They had 11 minutes to act and they did nothing. 6:03 p.m. Donald J. Trump took the stage. 6:09 p.m. Rallygoers identified the same suspicious individual on the roof with a gun. 6:11 3 shots were heard, and the president ear got clipped while a fire chief and other victims lost their lives. Remember, the shooter was only 20 years old, who for days in the lead for mass shooting. He even has a mass shooter picture in his phone. The day of the shooting, his search for explosives. He also searched for higher level officials. In my opinion, it was premeditated. It was an assassination attempt that was orchestrated by our own agencies. The Secret Service director initially declined to appear before the committee, prompting Congress to issue a subpoena to compel her testimony. While she provided more information to news outlets, Congress demanded detailed answers through her testimony. She barely gave out any information. This is what she had to say.
Some of that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chair now recognizes Mr. Sessions from Texas.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. I join in the calls of all of our members to say thank you for doing this hearing on a bipartisan basis. Director, I'm not going to sit here and say you ought to resign, but I am going to say that you have not given us confidence that you have the ability to understand what happened, to take the responsibility in terms of understanding. You've spent a number of years. How many years do you say you've been with the agency?
29.
Well, I spent 16 years with AT&T, moved 7 times with them, and had a really good feel about their operations, how they worked, what was acceptable, who was responsible. And I've heard you say today numbers of times, well, you've got to wait. Well, you've got to wait. Wait for the final report. When is the final going to happen? I mean, how long do we have to wait before you can give us credible answers? You've been there 28 years. You've had a few days to be able to draw your own analysis of this. You should understand the entire process. You talked about being on the team, perhaps in Georgia. You have talked about your experience in this. You've talked about the professional nature of the agency. That I don't doubt. But the director, just like it was when I ran my operations at AT&T, was responsible for making sure they worked. And in business, it either works or it doesn't work. There's no in between. It either works or it does not work. And your job as the, in essence, administrator, the director, is to make sure it looks right and works. And I've not heard you say one thing about my analysis is, I have asked these questions. It's always, I've got to sit back and wait for someone else to decide that. So I'm going to ask you a question that maybe you can answer. have any employees been disciplined for their role in Butler, PA incident?
No, sir, not at this time. I am asking those questions.
So no employee has been disciplined and no employee has been placed in any position that would place their job in jeopardy nor their standing in the agency.
We are still in the process of
That's
interviewing
not what
people.
I asked. You're the person that runs the place. You're the person that knows right from wrong, good from bad. You've had a number of days, and now you come before this committee knowing you're going to be before us, and you've got to slough it off to someone else. Do you see where there was something that went wrong as a professional at an agency with 28 years, or do you have to count on someone else to give you the final report?
I see that something went wrong, and I've acknowledged that something went wrong.
Then what went wrong?
I
Was
need
the
to-
special agent in charge not doing their job? Was the shooter given extra time? Was the sniper doing their job? I mean, these are things that people who've been around for 28 years can analyze quickly. I watched it live on TV, and then within minutes saw a number of facts and factors that would have and should have been known by people who were there. You've got 28 years. You're showing up here telling us and the American public, well, I've got to wait for the final answer. What is your evaluation?
I'm asking those same questions.
Well, no, you're before the
And
committee. Tell us what went wrong. A special agent in charge, the person who was there. Tell us, and don't try and play a shell game with us. Do you have the ability to effectively, as the director of this agency, to understand what went wrong and at least tell us, I do or don't know what I'm doing? And we come away with, and I'm not asking for you to resign. I'm asking for you, if you've got this experience, then you should be able to say to us, we know what we did wrong. It was a failure in our system, and we're immediately making these corrections. That's why you're having a difficult time with this group of members of Congress, because we saw it too. We've seen the things, but you are the 28-year expert. You are the person that, and only you, that can make the changes. And I hear you say, well, I've got to wait for a final report before I, at 28 years experience. That is why we think what you're doing, the answers you're giving us are not correct, and you are not using your professional expertise. Mr. Chairman, I will allow her to respond.
I am asking those same questions, sir, and I assure you, when I have a full and complete report of exactly what happened, there will be accountability, and we will make changes.
Before I recognize the question, just out of curiosity, Director, it's been 9 days, question to answer. Do you have a ballpark estimate of when what Mr. Sessions asked you would be able to answer,
So I can tell
time-wise?
I can tell you on our mission assurance internal investigation, we are targeting to have that completed within 60 days. There's also an external investigation that is going to be taking place. There are a number of Office of Inspector General investigations as well, and we are working in concert. And then, of course, there is the Department of Justice, FBI criminal investigation.
Chair recognizes Ms. Ocasio-Cortez from New York.